Present for you. They keep coming. My lucky day. Oh, nice. Keep coming. One down.
How is it not over yet? There we go. Okay, guys. So, what I did was very odd. I mean, it's building off of what I previously established in that other stealth video I did, which was the very first time I did it. But if you watch the previous stealth video, which was my very first attempt at using the stealth strategy for the sequence, you'll kind of understand what I was doing. So obviously, I ran through that previous area very quickly. I mean, you can still get the ammunition. I think once you go underneath that tree, that's when these enemies start moving, right over here. But you run through this previous area. You then need to go over here. You need to stealth kill the woman that has the pitchfork. And what you then need to do is you need to stand in this spot right over here and fire your gun 3 times. And this will cause every enemy that is not locked on to a specific object like these two guys were when they're just praying to this dead officer over here. But everyone except these two guys right here will come and investigate the noise. So when they're coming, you need to stay right here. You need to crouch the entire time so they do not see you. Hide over here. Wait until the woman and the guy with the axe sets up over there. And then this is where the clunky part begins, because I do not know how, but a lot of the times when you are crouched like this and you're moving along this fence line, these two guys, one of them somehow spots you even though their back is to you. It really doesn't make any sense. But a lot of the times it just feels like if your back is to the fence and you're looking at them and you wait for these other enemies to set up right behind this house, you don't seem to get spotted. I don't know if it's based on the camera or anything. Like, if you're looking at them, do they not just spot you out of the blue? It's very odd. But either way, you then need to go inside of this building over here, grab the grenade. You then need to come over here. You have to make sure you're standing right next to this gate over here. And you need to fire 3 times. And this will cause all the enemies over there to come over here to investigate the noise. Now, this is something very important to note, and I'm just wondering if I can apply it to another potential strategy, but these central enemies, like the guy with the hat, the woman with the pitchfork. Um, I think this axe guy over here may count. I'm not really sure. But also this guy right here, and also this guy right here. Every time you're making noise and the enemies are walking to the sound where the noise originated from, the enemies I just listed, they always seem to be in the lead. Like they're always going to be the enemies in front. Like they're always going to be the closest enemies to where the noise originated. Every other enemy that is not tied to this central location that you can safely stealth kill, they're just going to be in the back right over here. And also, I'm going to probably show this in another video, but sometimes, or I think this occurs every time, but the enemies I listed that always take the lead when they're investigating the noise, if you stealth kill one of them and the other enemies don't see you, the music will play and the objective for fighting them off will commence, but you will not enter combat. As soon as the reinforcements spawn in where you're hearing Ganado in the distance, and they're just spawning from these unplayable areas right here, everyone just knows where you are. But what I just listed, with doing a stealth kill on one of the enemies tied to this central area right over here, and not being seen by the others, it will cue the sequence, so the timer will actually count down for ending the sequence, and before the reinforcements have spawned in, they aren't aware of you, so you can actually do like the first half of this village intro once the objective for fighting them off begins in stealth, even though the music is playing. But to continue with what I showcased in this video particularly, since I fired my gun the second time, the enemies are just going to be in a line. Like you'll have one enemy here, one enemy here, one enemy here, and then the rest of the enemies right over here. You don't want that. And I don't know why this works, but the third time you make noise with your pistol by firing it 3 times, you want to be in this spot, and you need to immediately run to this side and hide in this hut. I don't really know if the enemies can see you through this window when you're mantling. It's really odd, but I did have a moment where somehow an enemy saw me in this house, but I was standing the entire time, so maybe that's a factor to consider, so you just gotta remain crouched at all times. But getting back on point, the third time you make noise after you draw the enemies over to that sound over there, they're clustered together. They're not in a line. It's really odd. I feel like the second time you make noise and you do it from this position, the enemies are going to be in a line, which did happen on one of my other recordings. But the third time you make noise, the enemies are literally going to be clustered together rather than in a line. And so this allows you to get a cluster kill with one single grenade. And also, after you make the third noise, you want to hide inside of here. Wait until the enemy's set up. You can just track their audio when they're just speaking. And then you just hop over this window. You have to wait until an enemy spots you. And then you just use the grenade. You have to make sure an enemy spots you. As Ether pointed out in the previous video regarding my stealth strategy, stealth kills do not contribute in any sort of way to the kill counter present for this village sequence. See, I originally thought with this sequence that it only had a timer to it. There was no timer and kill counter separate from one another. Each time you got a kill, it would reduce the timer by like 10 seconds, I would say, something like that. But that doesn't seem to be the case. The timer and the kill counter are 2 separate counters. So killing enemies does not speed up the timer. It just fills up that kill counter. And as soon as you reach the required amount of kills to end the sequence, it just ends. It's independent of the timer, so that's something important to realize. But getting back on track, you have to make sure the enemies see you before you detonate the grenade, and you might have also noticed that I was repeatedly pausing and unpausing the game. I've seen this demonstrated by a couple of people whenever they're using grenades, and I've always wondered why, but I think it's directly related to this issue with Resident Evil 4 Remake, where the higher your frame rate, the less damage your grenades do. And I think if you pause and unpause the game repeatedly, it slows the frame rate down, and I think it allows you to get more kills with grenades and also deal a lot more damage to the enemies if they do survive. So always make sure you do that so that your grenades are doing more damage by pausing and unpausing the game. And you'll notice that when I did kill the enemies, the reinforcements spawned in very quickly. That's how you know that combat kills are what contribute to the kill counter, not stealth kills. And because I killed so many enemies in combat in one single instance, and I did have to finish off a couple of stragglers, the reinforcements spawned in very quickly. And this is kind of where the luck begins right now, because it's really hard to get over to that house when enemies are just in the middle of spawning, because there's no telling where they go. So you might have to remain in this area, but the problem is the two guys that are sitting by that bonfire right there, they're on you. And of course they have all their health. They have their beefy health, which makes no sense with Resident Evil 4 Remake's professional difficulty. And so they can be putting pressure upon you, and this gives the other enemies plenty of time to catch up to you, and if they choose to spam and grab, you are screwed. Even when you're moving away at like max speed, you just cannot get away from the grabs. It's really dumb. And you also have enemies throwing axes. But either way, you might have to remain in this part of the area for a bit so that you can get most of the enemies clustered right around here, and there aren't so many of them, just clustered around the middle area right over there. So by doing this, you then run to the house, grab the shotgun, grab the other grenade, and just sit by the ladder. And as I've demonstrated before in my blind playthrough, and also in my walkthrough, and also in the previous stealth strategy, if you're staying by this window, and you're just like right here, just right next to the ladder, the chainsaw guy will not go through the door that he busts through. He'll instead go on the ladder, and a lot of the other enemies will just choose to go on the ladder rather than flank you, although there can be some rare instances where enemies can choose to flank you, even when you're close to the ladder, so you gotta prepare for those possibilities. But hopefully, because of the fact that you've contributed a significant number of kills to the kill counter, thanks to using that one grenade in that one spot there, you should be able to end the sequence very quickly. Although in my case, it really felt like it lasted longer than necessary. I mean, I really do not understand why the sequence is so badly programmed and why the stealth just doesn't work properly. Like, I don't understand why the stealth kills don't contribute to the kill counter. That's really stupid. And you're forcing the player into combat anyway, so why not just give them some way of contributing to the kill counter using stealth? Give us a reason to use the stealth. I just don't understand why New Capcom, when they're glamorizing the fact that they've put in a stealth system for Resident Evil 4 Remake, literally in the very first minutes of Resident Evil 4 Remake, you're just forced into combat if you reach certain thresholds. Like if you are here, and you're on this threshold right over here, you just get spotted for no reason. If you're in the central area, the enemies will spot you. If you choose to kill any enemy that is tied to the central area, when they are in the central area, you'll get spotted. But as I mentioned before, because in one of my other recordings, I lured these central enemies all the way over to this gate, and after I killed the enemies that were not tied to the central area, and I started stealth killing the enemies that were tied to the central area, when I did the stealth kill on one of the enemies that were tied to the central area, the music began, the objective changed, but these other enemies were not aware of me. But it's all about luck, pretty much, because when these central enemies are just clustering together because they're always in the lead, because they seem to go directly to where the shot was fired rather than just be around it, they can be pushing each other around, they might be facing in other directions. It can be pretty tricky to do, to actually get one single stealth kill on a central enemy and just ignore the rest before the reinforcements spawn in. I mean, it's really hard to explain what I'm talking about, but I'll just show it in another video. But this pretty much explains how the updated stealth strategy works for this sequence, and hopefully you'll be able to put it to good use to get this stupid sequence done, this badly designed sequence that is so disrespectful to the original version of Resident Evil 4's village fight sequence. What? What? You're supposed to go into combat after you kill those last couple of enemies. But it's not doing it. Hold on, is the music playing? Yeah, it's playing, but they're not coming. Oh, now what the hell? Now the reinforcements are spawning in. And as soon as they spawn in, everyone just knows where I am. Oh, okay, that is... Have I discovered some kind of unusual programming here? Huh. I wonder if you can use that. Can you... Like... So... You kill these enemies. And then the fight them off objective starts. And you're not being seen. So I guess in those other attempts where I was just being seen the moment I decided to stealth kill the enemies that are normally in the center part of the arena... I mean, in those other attempts, they must have seen me? I mean, that's odd. But I did this. The fight them off objective came. I then just stood there, waiting for her to come. And I'm guessing that the sequence was on a timer now. So, the reinforcements then spawned in. Everyone just knew where I was. Huh. That is interesting. That is really interesting. There might be something to this. I really have to test this out.